Derek Sheridan from Rust Belt Basketball Coaches Network. I want to give a gigantic happy birthday to my high school basketball coach, Coach Keisling. Coach Keisling turned 78 years young today, and there's not a better person walking the earth. Him and his wife Cheryl and the whole Keisling family, Matt, his son, just great people, salt of the earth people. Coach Keisling took over the Eastern Greentown basketball program in the summer between my freshman and sophomore year at high school, and did a fantastic job. He turned this program around. It was in a bad place, and Coach turned it around and turned not only the team into winners, but also turned us into winners. And he was really one of those guys who has a huge skill set, and he's really good working with young people. God put him on the earth, in my estimation, to work with young people. There's nobody better. And he had touched so many lives, and not just basketball players. He wasn't one of those coaches who was only concerned about the guys who laced him up at 305. He was the real deal. He was there for every kid. He didn't care what your last name was. He didn't care what part of town you came from. He didn't care about those things. He was there to make kids better, and had a personality as big as, like, he could fill the cafeteria up with either his sense of humor, or if somebody had upset him. It was just one of those guys who you knew where you stood. You knew where you stood. He had a smile that could brighten up a dark gym, and he always had a joke. He always had something funny to say. But man, if somebody did something to irritate him, something that they knew they shouldn't be doing, he could part the seas right now. I mean, he could put the fear of Christ in all of us, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And as a matter of fact, I think it's something that needs to be brought back to public education. But Coach was one of those guys you'd see in the hall, and one of the first things I picked up on was he wanted to know. He found out what your dad's name was, your mom's name, your grandparents' names, your brothers, your sisters, and he asked about your family every time. The first time you saw him, every day when you walked into school, your first encounter with Coach Keisling, he was going to ask you, "Hey, how are things going? How's your mom? How's your dad? How's your brother? Are you taking care of your sister? How are you helping out around the house?" And he was so good at building young men's confidence in how to be a strong-willed male. And that's not to be confused with being macho or being, over the top egregious. Just someone who was strong-willed, know the difference between right and wrong, how to treat people, how to talk to people. He that might have been the best skill he had. He was so good at that. And the kids in the school didn't like him; they loved him. The amount of respect and admiration we had for him was special. Um, and it was the same way on the basketball court. Now, on the basketball floor, he was a little different. He was very demanding, brought an extreme amount of discipline, which we needed, especially me, extreme amount of discipline, and kept things simple for us, and really taught us a lot about uh, the importance of being a unit, being a team. We had gotten away from that, and he was really good at bringing us together. And I have no problem saying that one of the ways he did that was shared suffering. And I know in modern America, people hear that term and they immediately go on the defense, and they have no idea, no clue how valuable that is. And what that simply means is, if somebody did something dumb, if someone did something, he just drilled us on something and threw the ball to the wrong team, whatever. Yeah, he put us on the line and he ran us. And there were a few times he ran us pretty good. And you know what? We needed it. We needed it. And it didn't take us long to figure out that as soon as we started picking each other up, meaning, let's say it's me, it usually was me, the reason we were running, but I threw the ball to the wrong team or whatever. And all of a sudden, his son, Matt or Swartz, or one of the other guys came over and said, "Hey, man, pick your head up. We got you. We got you. We're going to get through this." All of a sudden that running got lesser and lesser and lesser, and we got better and better and better because he was building us up. Yeah, did he tear us down? Sure. He did the same thing in his shop classes. He showed us how to strip an engine down and build the thing back up. He did the same thing to us, and it worked. And the success he had at Eastern Greentown was special. I can't remember anyone who had more success in such a short run at Eastern than he did. He was the head coach there on 2 or 3 separate times, but he always found a way to turn us into winners. He taught us how to put the ball in the hole. He taught us how to sit down and guard, and taught us how to play. I mean, we averaged 87 points my senior year, and we got out, and I mean, we ran. We ran, we pressed, we fast braked, and I mean, it was a great high school experience. He was so good with teaching us how he wanted us to play and let us play a lot in practice. Uh, the drilling we did was all stuff that was extremely necessary. There wasn't anything we did for just fluff. He let us compete and let us play. And during the school day, he was a completely different guy. Always had a joke. You could sit in his office and talk to him. You know, I was an office aide my sophomore year, and I had a crush on one of the girls, and you know, you could talk. I could talk to Coach about stuff like that, and you know, this is back when uh, a guy had to, you know, walk up to a girl and say, skull to skull, you know, hey, you want to go out, whatever, because you know, one of two things is going to happen. You're going to get a hard no, or you're going to get a hard yes. So that was part of the thing. About coach was, you know, you got to do it, man. You can't just write a note. You got to go talk to her. And he was good about teaching us how to do things we didn't want to ask our dads. And he was in that aspect, he was like the ultimate big brother who was like 10, 15 years older than you, or your one of your uncles, you know, someone you could talk with about things like that. And he was so good at that stuff. But once we hit the court, you know, he was a different guy, and I think that's the way it should be. But extreme amount of discipline, treating everyone the same, having the same expectations for everybody, no favoritisms, none at all. And the things he taught us in, you know, the intangibles, the leadership, manners were huge. I mean, manners were huge with him. You had to have manners. If you didn't have manners, you were gone to fast. I mean, those were things we needed. We were getting them from somebody else than our parents. And coach was non-negotiable on those type of things, and I love him so much for that. um, so those would be the, you know, I got asked one time at the IBCA clinic. Well, I was a freshman coach, and you know, freshman coaches don't get asked anything except you know, start the car, uh, figure out where we're going to eat after the game or after the clinic, make sure we got all the guys together. You know, you're not somebody people ask you uh, for your thoughts regarding anything when you're the freshman coach. And one of the local coaches had said, "Hey, tell me how Coach Keisling did it." It took a program that hadn't won hardly anything at all, and then turned you guys into a team who won a sectional game, which we had won a sectional game, which it's in Indiana, winning a sectional game is a little bit different, and that's a story for a different day. But discipline, bringing an extreme amount of discipline, being very specific in his teaching, um, being very demanding, but also a great teacher. I think the best teachers can be as demanding as they want, but two things with that: they can back it up with their skill set. They have the ability to teach it, and two, they have the ability to teach it to a wide array of different learning styles, and coach was great at that. And then I'd say the third thing was just flat out teaching us how to compete and teaching us how to value competition. And he coupled competition and teamness, or being a team, pretty much in the same thing. You know, it's a he just was so good at those things, and did them effortlessly. You know, if kids can pick up with an adult if they're having to try hard, or if this is something they just read out of a book. And that wasn't the case with him. Everything he said came straight from his heart. So we need more coaches like you, Coach Keisling, and I thank God, and my wife thanks God that I got to play for you. It was an experience I'll never forget, and I want you to have the best birthday possible. And tell your family I said hi, Coach. Happy birthday.